I had self-confidence issues since I was a child. I was a first generation American, and a lot of times there was a lot of pressure to succeed in life. That pressure brought on a lot of self-doubt. I wanted to be a writer. I had a childhood dream to also be a fashion model. I am right now in my early 50s, but at the time, in my teenage formative years, I was told that I couldn't be those things. At the time, there was nobody on TV that looked like me. I'm a 4'11" Asian woman that wanted to be a news anchor. I wanted to be a broadcaster. Didn't seem like that was an opportunity for me. I was told that I wouldn't make it. I wanted to be a writer. I was also told nobody was going to listen to me. Who would read what I have to say? I was taught to be able to see things from a be strong on the outside. So that self-doubt carried on into adulthood. I became successful in corporate. I am a good wife, good mom, and good professional. However, it didn't take long for me to keep trying to satisfy everyone. I was working 18 to 20 hours a day in my corporate job. I was trying to manage a family, and at the time, a young son. And at the time, I wasn't taking care of myself. My turning point was when I ended up in the emergency room with borderline stroke levels of high blood pressure. At that moment, when the doctors told me I needed to slow down, that was my turning point. My young son at the time was close to my hospital bed, and I needed to understand where I was and where I wanted to go. That was the moment I decided to go on a self-discovery journey. I could not function the way that I've been functioning all these years. And I have to finally understand why I was going through what I was going through and really address my issues. I went on a self-discovery journey, and through that journey, I felt more empowered and I felt the confidence to actually pursue my passions. I became an international best-selling author. I had co-authored 2 books on how I overcame my limiting beliefs and imposter syndrome. I'm also a motivational speaker. Even if I'm not a broadcaster, I'm with you today because I found my voice. And I'm able to tell everyone, especially women over 40 who are professionals and have that self-doubt about themselves, to really dig deep and understand themselves and be able to be empowered, redefine their success, review my lifestyle, and be able to recover from that, is understanding the source of my issues. I always had self-doubt. I always felt that everybody else was better than me. Once I labeled that, then I was able to identify what I could do about it. I'd like to share with you the 5 types of imposter syndrome. You may have heard that term over the past 5, 10 years, but have you really understood what that was? The first type is the perfectionist. I had always tried to be perfect, that if it wasn't the first time, then I'd consider myself a failure. I always had to see that everything was in the right place and everything was structured. And if things fell out of place, then it was my fault. The second type is the expert. This is where we try to chase titles or validate yourself through those titles. In the corporate space, I was trying to get promoted. And once I got promoted, instead of celebrating myself, I was on to the next goal of getting to the next level and the next level and the next level. And it became exhausting because I never really celebrated myself. I never really celebrated my wins. The gifted one, or the natural genius, is another type where we have things that we are very good at naturally. And if there are challenges that we face that are not easily solvable, we end up thinking that we're failures because of the fact that we didn't know things. The fourth type is the soloist. How many of us have been told, you got to try to do it on your own? You got to be independent. You got to figure it out on your own. And especially as children going through the school systems and with our society, if you're not doing things on your own, then you're a failure as well. I never asked for help because asking for help is a sign of weakness. That was what I was taught as a child. The last one is the superhero. How many of us want to be everything to everyone? I tried doing that, and there comes a point where it's going to fall apart. How many of us so many times try to juggle so many things, keep the balls up in the air, keep the plate spinning, and then in the meantime, you're the one suffering because you're running on that adrenaline and you're running on that vision of people pleasing also comes into play with imposter syndrome. I heard a lot of speakers talk about how they were a people pleaser. That's one of the things that I had to overcome as well. And that's the part of the superhero type of imposter syndrome that we face sometimes. So how many of you experience one or all of these? And I'm sure at some point, all of us experience all of them at the same time. According to the American Psychological Association, up to 72% of us experience imposter syndrome at some point in our lives, and 62% of us as professionals. And now that we are able to identify what type of imposter syndrome we are, then we can say, you know what, I'm not alone. I know that this is something that I can recover from. I can have the power to redefine who I am and not let anybody else dictate what my life should be. So what are the things that helped me through my journey? I aligned with my self-belief, with my values and passions and unique talents. The first part of my journey was self-assessment, how I saw myself. I had to redefine who I am. Yes, I was a mom. Yes, I was a wife. Yes, I was a professional. But those are all external. Who am I as a person? My goals and my dreams and who I was ended up being in my childhood. And that stopped when other people told me that I couldn't be what I wanted. I wanted to resurface that and make sure that I lived my life for who I wanted to be. And that's the true meaning of being your authentic self. So that journey that I took really helped me get to where I want to be. Self-journaling. I've heard so many speakers today talk about self-journaling. That's a huge thing. One thing that I've always struggled with was finding my self-worth, because especially when we consider ourselves failures, sometimes we say, you know what, I'm not good at anything. What am I doing? But if you do self-journal, one thing that you accomplish that day and just keep doing it on a regular basis, when you come to those self-doubt points, you could look back on it and say, you know what? I've done all these things, so I'm not that bad. So the self-validation is going to be a much more powerful tool than what anybody else thinks. Your words and your documentation is your proof. So that's something that I totally recommend, and I punctuate with the other speakers and saying self-journaling is a great tool. As part of that, self-reflect to gain clarity about yourself. What are your triggers when you feel that you have that self-doubt? What are your behaviors? How do you feel when those triggers happen? And then be able to identify ways and strategies to actually make that self-doubt gap smaller so you can start being empowered much quicker. I ended up overcoming my fear and self-doubt. I became more empowered to be who I am. And that's why, again, I'm here with all of you, because I found my voice, and I want everyone to know that this is something that you can do. It's never too late. Also, take action, but with intention. With the resources that you have, whether it's coaching, mentoring, books, podcasts, all those are awesome. And those are great resources. But you have to use them with intention. Take action on it and be able to really absorb that within yourself. That way, you'll be able to take the strategies that work for you and practice it and make it part of your regular routine. Cultivate confidence daily. A lot of my clients used to tell me, self-affirmations is not for me because I hate talking about myself, and I hate talking to myself, and I hate kind of like, and all I heard was, I hate doing that. And I ended up having them really understand what the true meaning of self-affirmations are. It's not for anybody, it's for you. Self-affirmations are really your belief system, because in the past, a lot of people have given you your belief. You have taken external factors and external words to identify yourself. Now is the time to actually listen to yourself and believe in it instead of believing in what other people say about you. The biggest mistake that I made and what I see other people make is, number one, doing it alone. I mentioned that before. I always tried to say to myself, you know what, I can do this. I'm stronger than that. I don't need anybody, just those limiting beliefs. But then once I freed myself and asked for help, through mentorship, through communities, supportive communities, it is one of the most empowering things to know that somebody's in my court. And I also learned from other people for my journey and going through the same type of journey to say, hey, I can do what they're doing, and I can be who I am because I'm worth it. Ignoring the bigger issue. As I mentioned, as I went into adulthood, I didn't think it was an issue because it was just more of a coping mechanism. Once I saw the bigger issue about my self-confidence and the source of my doubt, that's when I was able to really be able to redefine it and get to where I want to be because of that. And I doubted myself going through this challenge. That was one of the mistakes I made. If I fail at some point, because this is challenging, right? These transformations to being what you have believed most of your life to believing a more empowering and more authentic life was very difficult. And so when I went through this challenge, I always retreated back and I went through my bad habits. And so now I was able to figure out strategies on how to sustain that confidence. And so if I do get into that mode of self-doubt again, I was able to bounce back quicker. I'm hoping that I helped through a lot of the challenges that people face, especially with women over 40 who are having imposter syndrome. I am a personal development coach that helps get through those challenges and helps you get the tools and the structure to actually get through them. I am having a lot of resources that can help you in your journey. I am offering a self-discovery guide, which is self-doubt to self-worth guide, which does have prompted questions as well as self-affirmations to get you started, especially in your journaling. I also am offering a free 30-minute session to help you get through your journey and get you started with what you want to do and see how I can support you. I'm also available through my website, gailmeriel.com. I'm also on social media, and we have Ask Me Anything sessions where I go live and be able to answer any questions regarding your situation or any topics regarding confidence. I want to leave you with a most empowering statement. For those watching, if you are going through a dark period in your life that starts giving you that self-doubt and you feel that you can never get out of that self-doubt, just stay strong and know that you will come stronger out of that journey and you will be empowered to be who you want to be. And most importantly, don't let anyone else define you. Thank you all for having me on here. This was a great opportunity. I am able to express my words and punctuate the message that all the speakers before me had already given.